The following program is brought to you by the Internet Broadcasting Organization.
Good morning. Welcome to 2 Cent Sports and Entertainment. Coming to you on a Sunday morning. I hope you're up and awake like I am this morning for a change, although it's up late. Today is going to be our NFL Draft Special, which obviously, if you follow the NFL, which if you're listening to this show, you probably should. Starts on Thursday evening. Still not happy with the way they've gone and done the first round on Thursday evening and second round on Friday evening and third and fourth round on Saturday and fifth, sixth, and seventh on Sunday. I'm not happy with it. It's too many days. Too many days.
I'm with you on that. By the way, I'm the coach checking in at the behind the glass.
I, of course, am your host, Scuba.
That's right. It's really bad that we forgot to introduce our own selves on our own show.
Well, I was just about to do that, but you jumped in, so it's just fine. Did it just fine. So we welcome everybody here, and in case you didn't know, the intro song that was played today was a song by band Still Child.
And I really like that.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot better than what we had.
Yeah, and my stepbrother, Brandon, is in that band, and they just got the news, and well, not just got the news, but they actually, we had him on last week, and yesterday they actually signed on an official label.
Wait a minute. Does that mean their stuff's copyrighted? Are we in trouble?
Nope, we already got permissions.
That's right.
So, looks like they're going to be doing something, and since they are also not too far away from other band that we have featured on here and interviewed, and also in my family of Kings and Beasts. So, is a good possibility that these two bands could actually end up playing together here.
That would be really cool.
It would be very cool. So, may have to make a trip up to Iowa for that. But so, congratulations goes out to Still Child and fans of the same. They probably will be going on some summer tour in some of the Midwestern states. So, we will certainly promote them as we have said we will do. And so, when we get a little bit more news, we'll let you all know for sure. And that also means that they will be releasing a CD at some point. Some of the songs that we're playing, they're having redone and some other additional stuff together. So that's pretty exciting, pretty good stuff. But what we'll do before we kind of get started into the NFL draft talk and so forth, obviously we want to kind of touch a little bit on some of the other sports. We'll kind of glance through them all, because this whole draft show is probably going to take us quite a while. Definitely encourage your calls or your input, your thoughts. We certainly do not kick you off the show like some other regular mainstream shows will do, unless, of course, you're completely and utterly rude. I will always give you your say, and so please give us a call when you're ready to go. But what we'll probably do, we're supposed to have a telephone guest, which was the intention was to have him in studio with me, but without going into too much detail, that's just not going to happen for reasons beyond my control. So, not happy about that in the least, but the show will go on, and hopefully we will get him on the phone, and we'll just have to do it the hard way. That does not mean we will not be able to take your calls. We should be able to do the same. And so we'll go from there. But last night, I don't even want to talk much about it. I'm thoroughly disgusted.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, Zach's still speechless.
No, and I was. And what was I saying last night? I can't even watch this.
It was... We're talking about the Tampa Bay Storm, folks, and
remember, just before we get into it, don't let what we say influence you not to go to these games.
Exactly. I mean, it's still a fun time. It is. A little more vested in it than the average Joe, so...
Yeah, those women next to me were moving their kids back. They're like, don't get near my kids when I'm sitting there beating the hell out of the wall.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
A little more vested in than the average Joe, but it does, so I get a little more passionate about it. I've been following this team, and I've been a part of this team for, well over 20 years now, so I'm pretty well vested, like I said, over the average Joe. So, it was a pathetic performance, to say the least. The first half specifically. These guys continue to come out flat without a whole lot of emotion. I'm not going to label the entire team that way. There are a couple, exceptional guys on the team that do not necessarily fall into that category, and I'm not going to call out specific guys today, except maybe one. And then we come into the second half and in the third quarter, and it was a much different team. It's the team that I've come to accept as being what they can be, and what they were the first 3 or 4 games of the season. A lot of fire, making things, making plays, getting turnovers, and they fought back. They were down 33-7 and pulled within 33-28. And I thought that, okay, now we're going to be good. And then the stupidity happened again. And the realization is at this point, as the Storm have lost now their 4th straight game to fall to 3-5. It doesn't put them out of anything. They're still in it, just fortunately because other teams stink too. And last year they did make the playoffs 6-7, or no, 7-9. They were 7-9. Excuse me, because they play more games. So they're not out of it, but as each week goes by, there's less and less room for error. And all I can tell you is that it's apparent now that this team is what this team is. Has a hard time staying up emotionally, undisciplined, which is surprising, and just not consistent. And one of the worst parts of the team, and I was talking to Zach about this last night, and like I said, I've followed this franchise for over 20 years now. And the one thing that was key about this franchise, it being one of, if the not most successful franchises in the league, although they haven't done it much in the last 10 years, is that they've always had a phenomenal quarterback, despite all their other weaknesses they may have had. And in this league, that is key. The Storm don't have that right now.
No, and when we're sitting there and I'm gonna say it, when we were sitting there in the back, making jokes about the quarterbacking last night, would we have ever done that about Adrian McPherson or Jay Gruden?
No,
seriously.
No, Adrian McPherson was was the quarterback that was going to make this team better again, and when they were right there last year until he got hurt.
Yep.
And ever since he got hurt, and of course signed a contract to the Canadian Football League, and has
congratulations.
Been back. Yes, of course. I certainly don't blame him for that.
No, not at all.
This team has been crap. We got the right coach in place. I truly believe that.
Mm-hmm.
We got the right staff in place. They have a strong defensive line. Their weakness continues to be the secondary and quarterback.
Yeah.
And they're trying to fix it weekly, And unfortunately, they're running into injuries in these areas, especially the secondary. So they are shifting in some guys that, just aren't ready or they're out of position. And I understand that. The Arena League doesn't allow for a practice squad. So there's no way to have any depth. But I don't know, they finally made the choice last night for the quarterback to be pulled. It just so happened to be after he took a safety. And just so happened to be right when he got injured.
One thing I'm going to say, and I probably shouldn't, but it's not a good thing when the crowd is actually cheering for your quarterback to stay on the ground when he's hurt.
Yeah. It's been evident. I mean, look, you could hear the coaches talking about it all throughout this game, and not just this game, last week, how bad the quarterback's doing. Pull the trigger. Just pull him out. It's as bad as it is, you can't do much worse.
Right, and that's what you were saying.
However, be careful what you ask for, because we actually did get worse. They did finally, eventually, like I said, pulled him, and they were going to pull him, and he ended up getting injured. So it didn't look like they pulled him, but they were doing it anyway. And BJ didn't stand a chance. He clearly had more zip on the ball.
Yeah, we had one quarterback who lobs the ball over the receiver's head, and then we have one that bullets the ball 20 yards over.
Well, and I think part of that problem is that these receivers have gotten so frustrated and so used to having to pull up their routes and wait for the ball to get to them, which is the biggest problem. And you saw that all night. Joe and Amari being wide open, and let's not excuse. Amari had a couple key drops and a fumble early on. He did not have a great night. Joe Hills did, but. When you're so used to a ball taking forever to get to you and you have to pull up your route to try to catch the ball and fight a defender for it because you're not able to catch the ball in stride like you're supposed to in this league, you get used to doing that. Mm-hmm. And now you got a quarterback that's got some zip on the ball and can hit you in stride, and now all of a sudden your stride isn't what it should be. And therefore you get overthrown. So I won't get too much more into this.
No,
they lost again. They're on a bye week now. They're off for 2 weeks. We'll have to see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
Let's see. I think the next game is home against Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Sharks. And remember, like I said,
Vince Neil, by the way, just became a part owner in. Vince Neil from Motley Crue.
Oh, cool.
So rock and roll is. If John Bon Jovi would just get back with the Philadelphia Soul, we'd have him with them, and of course, then you got Kiss owning the L.A. Kiss, who will be on, should be on regular TV, by the way, tonight's game. It'll be interesting. Check that out. The L.A. Kiss, I'll only tell you, I'll sorry, Zach, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. Don't worry.
The L.A. Kiss game, I'm looking forward to watching that because they're taking the Arena League back to its old roots and the old way it used to be, and even to a little bit more of a different level. They're playing on a gray field. It's all rock and roll like it used to be. And they have dancers too.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, strippers. Pretty much.
They sure do.
But anyway, I know Zach was about to make a point, but check that out on TV if you just for the heck of it. Just bounce on it. You'll see. It's pretty exciting. But anyway,
it's 7:00 on ESPN2. Am I not mistaken? ESPN2.
It may be. If not, it's on CBS Sports.
Yeah, check that out. What I was just getting ready to say was, and like I said before, don't let what we say about the Tampa Bay Storm convince you not to go. Remember, we are journalists, we're radio hosts, but we're fans first, and we're the first ones to tell you, keep going out to the games. Cheap tickets are cheap. It's a family game. Tampa Bay Storm does not have strippers in cages, damn it. And, just definitely get out there.
Yeah, and quite honestly, you can get out there to the game and you can get yourself free tickets.
Free. They kind of passed out about 100 free tickets to my section.
Yeah, well, they're doing the voucher thing, and and there's nothing wrong with that because you don't make most of your money on ticket sales anyway. What you want to do is it's how I got into the sport. I got in on a group where I was working. They got a group deal, and they just had a group outing to the game, and I was like, oh, what the hell, I'll go. And I went, and I fell in love with it. And I've been a fan ever since.
Now, me and him are insane.
Yeah. But, so, look, you can't ask for a better night out that's free, No one says you have to buy food and beverage there. So don't complain about prices of food and beverage at any sporting event for that matter, because no one ever says you have to eat or drink when you go to these places. And if you do responsibly. So it's a good night out. And it's definitely kid friendly. And last night was actually a dual promotion night. It was Star Wars night. They had a lot of Star Wars characters out. And by the way, May the 4th be with you.
Yes. May the 4th be with you.
So anyway, check out the games. There'll be again 2 weeks from now. There'll be another game, and we'll go. It'll be good. It'll be good. Mm-hmm. Other things that's happened this week. Floyd Mayweather had a fight last night.
Did he win?
He did win.
Damn it.
It was a close fight, but he won by unanimous decision. But he had to start winning in the later rounds. It did go the distance, and he walked out. Apparently, Justin Bieber walked out with him. That made me less of a fan. I can
Are
tell
you serious?
I'm dead serious. Well, ask your mother, because apparently your mother was out and she was watching it. So
I cannot. Oh, that's embarrassing.
But at any rate, yeah. So that's going on. I'm also thoroughly convinced, and have been for quite a while, that the NBA is fixed.
Really?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Because the NBA is a joke, and this league has been struggling for a long, long time. And I just find it way too odd that they have these teams that are stacked to win and to be dominant, yet you still have teams that can go up by 18 points, and then next thing you know, they're winning by 18 points. We've got the first round of the playoff series. They're setting all sorts of records. Most overtime games. Every single one of these series just about is going to 7 games. And, I mean, honestly, the Indiana Pacers, although as badly as they were playing towards the end of the season, they were the top seed playing the 8th seed, Atlanta, who had a losing record. Yet Atlanta pushed them to 7 games. Really? Give me a break. You got San Antonio, clearly the best team in the league the entire season. Had even at one point a 19-game win streak. Dallas, who just barely snuck into the playoffs, all of a sudden, that's a 7-game series. And Dallas had lost 10 straight games to San Antonio. All of a sudden, they found a way to beat them 3 times in a 7-game series. Give me a break. Brooklyn and Toronto are in a 7-game series. Seriously? If this league doesn't smell, I don't know what does. I just think that they know they've got some issues, and then of course you got the whole, I don't even want to mention his name anymore. The Clippers owner situation that we talked about last week, and
his wife showed up to the game.
Well, she's not. She's an estranged wife, and she's clearly, it came out like almost immediately. She's like, I don't share his views, So it's not her. She's not banned for life like he got.
Right.
And so then the next step for him outside of being banned for life will be for the league to vote on whether or not to force him to sell the team.
And I think that's going to pass, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, "Oh, there's no way they're going to do that. These guys are, they're a tight-knit group, and last thing you want is, any of these other owners to, if he's got dirt on them, they're not going to want to be exposed too." Yeah. And I would agree if that were true, but a lot of these NBA owners right now they haven't been around that long. There's a lot of these owners are fairly new. Mm-hmm. This guy with the Clippers, and again, I'm just purposely not using his name. He's the longest tenured owner in the league, and he's had the team since 1981. Mm. None of these other owners have been around, not even half that time. So I'm not sure how much of an in this guy had with a lot of these other guys, and I think it's going to pass unanimously. It's as if the league didn't have enough problems. You got this going on. So They got to do whatever they can, and heck, if it means forcing a lot of game sevens, especially with the team that he formerly owned or still owns, I guess technically, and a bunch of overtimes to make the product more exciting, then by all means, that's what we've got to do. The NBA I just don't like it. It's unwatchable. So that's my 2 cents on that.
And I can't say I disagree with you. I mean, I may disagree on the fix thing, but that's just it's you have no. That's the thing is none of us have any clue. It's like it definitely could be from what you see. It definitely could.
Well,
be.
you could even go back a couple years ago when the league went on strike, but in that off strike, and here's some more collusion here. The league owned at the time the New Orleans franchise,
right?
Due to the ownership problems that they had there, and the Los Angeles Lakers made a fair and honest deal for Chris Paul. And the commissioner stepped in and said, no, this trade can't happen. It's not fair, da-da-da-da-da. And so they stepped in, and because they owned the team, nixed the deal that the team people that they had in charge of the team had already agreed upon. And saying, no, the Lakers, that's not a fair deal. The Lakers aren't giving enough back, which is bullcrap because they certainly were. It was a fair trade. And the league stepped in and said, no, this trade can't happen. And now we're going to let the LA Clippers trade for him instead. And the LA Clippers gave up even less. And they landed Chris Paul. So now the Clippers that have been mired in league obscurity and probably the worst franchise in NBA all of a sudden became instant contenders when you threw a Chris Paul on there with Blake Griffin, who they were clearly marketing as the face of that franchise and as one of the faces of the league, aside from the obvious LeBron James. Now, one of your glory franchises, the LA Lakers, are in a predicament. They thought they had a trade for a player that they needed, a key piece that they thought that they needed, coming off the 2009 NBA championship. Well, now, the players that you had included in that deal realize that you really don't want them anymore. And now they don't want to play for you anymore. So now you have to trade them for absolutely nothing or just let them walk. And that's exactly what happened, with the exception of Pau Gasol. And the Lakers franchise has fallen apart since. And the LA Clippers are now one of the top teams in the league. So, this league is fixed. It is rigged, at the very least. And I'm not liking it more and more.
Even though we're moving on to the NFL draft stuff
yes.
After the break, if you have comments on this, definitely call us, 813-639-8255.
Yes, that was it. I did want to use the first segment to kind of go over some other stuff. We will get back into the NFL draft. Of course, we got the hockey playoffs going on. And yes, it's an NFL draft show, and I am wearing hockey gear today. But
I'm not. I'm wearing my Cincinnati Bengals.
You are, but it is hockey season. It really isn't football season. So that's just the way I feel. And my Bruins won an amazing game yesterday, which was extremely important. So deal with it. But anyway, there's not too much else in sports that's really worth talking about. We got a long ways to go today. We're going to hit our NFL draft stuff. One thing I did want to plug before, and we're going to play some music and a couple commercials on the way out. We've had on the show Lucas Overby, a local guy in the Tampa Bay area, pretty much in the Pinellas County area, actually. He's been on the show. He had been up for a special election back in March, just a couple months ago, for his district. He was unsuccessful in that bid. He's a Libertarian candidate. But there's another opening in his district, and it was going to go unopposed. Well, we can't have that. We can't have an unopposed opponent. So Lucas has been approved, and he has relaunched a campaign for Congress. And he was for the United States House of Representatives in District 13 over in Pinellas County. And he is kicking off a money bomb campaign. He's just trying to start off to try to raise $20,000. And you can, if you would like to help or at least check him out, look up Lucas Overby, Overby. And you can also donate online at www.rally.org/Lucas Overby for Congress. Or you can do it in person if you happen to be locally in this area at 1910 Drew Street in Clearwater. So I've promised Lucas that, although he's out of my district, I am much a proponent of the libertarian movement and party. And I told him I would continue to give him some support, and the show would give him support whenever he needed or whatever we could do for him. And he has gladly accepted it and thanked us for that. And so I told him I would announce that, and we may have him back on the show again as things get closer. So,
and not only that, but Lucas is actually launching a radio show upcoming. I believe it's in late May, where I believe I will be guest hosting that show. So,
well, now that he's running for Congress, we'll see if that still happens.
Are you saying that I'm not a sufficient co-host for a political show?
Well, you may not have time.
That is true.
That's what I'm saying. But anyway, that was my announcement. I'm sure Zach's got some music lined up, but Zach, go ahead and give the information too, so people can call in.
The credentials. Well, the credentials for the credentials.
You know what I meant.
For the 2 Cent Sports and Entertainment Show. Message us on Facebook, 2 Cent Sports and Entertainment Show. We accept stuff. Message us to our personal Facebooks. If you're friends with us, call us 813-639-8255. As you can see, Bootash and Donovan is our sponsor behind us. Oh!
We are in the Bootash and Donovan hotline.
Correct.
To call in.
Correct. And also, new sponsor, Thomas Wilsey of Tech and Media Partners. Thank you very much. And if you would like to check out the website, it will be launched, I believe, later today is what he told me, techmediapartners.com.
Finally. All right. Very good. Excellent. We'll be back in a moment. We'll get started on this NFL draft talk.
Tortured with emotion. Michael G. Butash, attorney at law, is a former state prosecutor with substantial experience in handling all criminal and DUI matters. When you are facing charges, you want someone who aggressively defends cases ranging from minor traffic infractions to serious violent first-degree felonies. Call attorney Butash and together you'll discuss your case in person or by phone. He accepts most major credit cards and also offers payment plans. Call attorney Michael G. Butash today for your initial free consultation.
Welcome back to the 2 Cent Sports and Entertainment Show. 813-639-8255, the phone number. Go ahead, give us a call.
Please do.
You like how I did that?
I did. No, I'm glad you did.
Thank you. Because you were, what was that? What were you chomping down on over
I'm
there?
throwing down some Breakfast of Champions.
Apple dippers?
Apple dippers.
Cheese?
Monster. No cheese today.
Oh, no cheese today.
I would love to have some cheese.
Because normally he heads over to the unofficial sponsor Racetrack and buys one of those $3 things of apples and cheese.
Yes, but now the exit is now closed.
Oh, that's right.
So now I got to get off at a different exit, and now I pass a Wawa. So I'm not passing up Wawa. Who has my Monsters right now? 2 for $3.50, which is like the best anywhere else. So and they have apple dippers. They have a whole cup of apple dippers and just the apple dippers with caramel. And then of course I'm in line and I see brownies and cookies. I kind of felt like you, and I had to oblige. So, and anyway, we're gonna have to get going on our little NFL draft special. And our NFL draft special is just going to be me and you, apparently. My guest has declined calling in.
He did, and there's a reason for it, and I'm not going to get into it.
Yeah, again, reasons of why he's not here is obviously reasons why he's also not going to call in. Unfortunately, my show takes the brunt of the punishment for something that's not out of my control, and I am expressing my displeasure.
And the thing is, though, is that I'm glad you're doing it in a professional way, because I couldn't do that.
Well, and that's why I am me.
That's right. That's why you were Scuba.
Anyway, needless to say, I'm not happy about this whatsoever, and I don't hold any ill will towards my guest that I was planning on having. So,
but you know what? It's time for the NFL draft.
Yep. We move on. The show goes on, and we will get it done. And I know Zach's done his homework anyway.
Let's go.
We should. Don't talk like that, man. That's creepy.
Sorry.
That's creepy. That's like a bedroom voice or something.
But one more time. Here we go.
What is that?
That's the NFL draft noise.
No, I could barely even hear
and
it.
the first pick of the 2013 NFL draft, I hate Roger Goodell.
Yeah, well.
Sorry.
Everyone's a clown. Anywho. So Thursday's the first round of the draft, and we're really going to just kind of go through all the picks. There's only 2 teams that don't have any first-round picks, that being the Indianapolis Colts and the Washington team. And everybody else does. And there's 2 teams that have 2 picks in the first round, that being the St. Louis Rams and the Cleveland Browns, who clearly need that help.
They need everything.
They do.
Which is something we're going to get into.
Yes. But we'll start the countdown from number 1. And Zach and I were already kind of touching on this last...
you know what we should do, and this is just... And I wish I should have told you this earlier. I think what we should do, because remember you were talking about how you wanted to break it down by position and stuff and what they need. You do that, and I'll make my picks.
Well, it doesn't mean you can't have a discussion about it.
No, I'm just saying. You break it down, I'll break it down, and then I make my pick.
Well, if you think you can do that.
I'm ready. It's easy.
It's easy. I have some of that lineup anyway too. So anyhow,
Well, the draft is May 8th, 2014 at 8 p.m. Like you said, we are 4 days, 8 hours, 19 minutes, and 30 seconds away.
yeah, I don't think we're going to go to the Bucks draft party.
You're not?
No.
Oh.
They hold they hold the draft party in the club area of the stadium, and I'll be right there. It's like I work right there, practically, and just a mile down the road.
Mm-hmm.
I did it a couple years ago when the Bucks had that number 3 pick that they ended up trading down, ironically, to number 7 when they passed on Trent Richardson. It turns out to have been an awesome move on their part because they ended up getting 2 players in that first round that are still on the team, and Doug Martin's one of them. Anyway, they're okay, but it's just a long night. And then when you're picking, the good thing is, the Bucks are picking 7th, and we'll talk a lot about the Bucks because they are our local team. But if they trade away that 7th pick, it's going to take long enough just to get to that 7th pick because you get 15 minutes in between each first round pick,
Which is ridiculous.
It's redonkulous. At least it's redonkulous if you're starting at 8:00 at night, for crying out loud. This is why I don't like it.
So that means technically 4 picks. It could take 4 picks in an hour.
That's exactly what it is.
That's ridiculous.
It's 15 minutes. Zach.
That's insane.
Now, the only problem is that if that pick is traded, the team that just traded for that pick gets another 15 minutes. That's the other reason I don't like it. On a Thursday night, 8:00, and this thing goes on until, midnight and beyond. It's silly and it's asinine, and it's just the NFL is just oversaturating itself. It's going to be its ultimate downfall at some point or another. There's nothing wrong with what they had, starting first thing, Saturday morning, or it started Saturday at noon or 11 o'clock or whatever it was. There was nothing wrong with that. Okay, enough with that diatribe. Anyway, so probably not going to go to the draft party. It's just a lot of being around there. Yeah, there's some food and beverage, and you can collaborate, clamor with some people around there and so forth, and they have player appearances and blah blah blah, but it's still a lot of sitting around, and if you're not really there with a bunch of people, which unfortunately I don't have too many friends that are season ticket holders, and those that I know that are just don't seem to really want to continue to maintain contact with me, so I don't know what that's all about. So I end up really just kind of being there by myself. I generally will run into a couple people I know, but for the most part, I don't mind doing things by myself or on my own. I do it quite often. It's just some things that when there's just not a whole lot of going on until the draft actually starts, that you just can only twiddle your thumbs so much by yourself. So I'm probably going to pass on doing that, and just not want to deal with all that. So anyway, let's move on. I tend to get away. So first pick up is obviously the Houston Texans, and it's been nonstop talk since the Super Bowl ended. I'm just glad this draft is finally here. It should have been here. It should have been done it would have been done a couple weeks ago, and just a couple extra weeks has just been brutal. I'm tired of hearing the same stuff over and over again. I think it's going to be interesting. We were talking about this last night about Houston Texans. Everybody's like, well, clearly they're going to take Jadeveon Clowney, or Jadeveon. I think he wants to change his name now. However, I don't know if that's going to necessarily happen. You never know what Houston's going to do. Houston has more needs than just quarterback. Than defense. They really don't have actually a defense as anything that the Texans really need. The Texans need a quarterback. The Texans need a right tackle. They do need a linebacker probably. I don't know that they believe that Case Keenum is their long-term solution. I mean, what do you think?
No, Case Keenum is not.
Where are they going to get their quarterback unless they're going to try to take one later? And I would be okay with that, quite honestly. I think Jadeveon Clowney should be their pick. I'm not convinced, and we've talked about this on a couple occasions on this show about this class of quarterbacks. I don't really think that there's really one that stands out any more than the next guy. And I think that there's the 2 or 3, the Manziel, the Bridgewater, the Bortles, they're all being talked about being first rounders, but I honestly don't see them being any better, all that much better at least, than the Aaron Murrays, the John Savages, the John Mettenbergers, Zach, excuse me, I just said John, the Zach Mettenbergers, that they're talking about going in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds. I really don't see much of a difference there. This could be a situation where there's plenty of quarterbacks available, but I don't think that there's any clear cut, you have to take this guy, like you've had the last couple of years where you have to take an Andrew Luck, or that type of quarterback. I think all these guys are just normally would be maybe late first rounders or second round guys, but because teams need quarterbacks, they're going to reach and they're going to snatch these guys up for need, as opposed to taking the best available person at that position. Now, if we get past Jadeveon Clowney's, lack of effort, if you will, that he showed his last year there at South Carolina, his work ethic and so forth, and he ends up, all that stuff just becomes a smoke show, then I think that he could be a long-term player, barring injury and so forth, for your franchise, as opposed to any of these other quarterbacks where there's just questions about each and every one of them. Mm-hmm. And statistically, it's proven that if you make a bad choice at quarterback, your record will reflect that years down the road. And then you continue to be in a cycle of reaching for a position by picking the wrong guy, because you picked the guy because he plays that position, but he might not be the right guy for your team. And so you continue to pick the wrong guy, a la the Oakland Raiders. They've been doing it for 10 years. They keep reaching for quarterbacks, knowing that they need them, but they never pick the right one. Because they just
Are you telling me that Jamarcus Russell was not a great quarterback? Come on.
And honestly, there were a lot of people that thought he would be. I thought he would be. But the one thing that they couldn't count on was a guy that was literally going to get fat on his contract. He didn't have any work ethic. He didn't want to work hard. And Vince Young, same thing. They didn't want to work hard. They didn't want to learn. They didn't want to put in the extra time. They wanted to just show up on game day and thought that it'd be like high school and college where all they had to do is show up and their talent would take over. Guess what, guys? That's high school and college. All these guys on the field with you are exactly like you. They only had to show up on that particular day. So when you show up on that day and you're showing up against everybody of equal talent or better than you, you better have put some extra work in. So here's the question. If Houston doesn't take Jadeveon Clowney, where does he fall to? Do the Rams sitting at number 2 take him, even though the Rams clearly do not need him at all? They have arguably the 2 best defensive ends in the league. I think they would be remiss for passing on a guy like this, but at the same time, what do you do with the other 2 guys that you already have, and where does he get lost in that mix? So I don't think that's fair to him. So I don't think the Rams would take him. The Rams have greater needs at wide receiver. Their offensive line needs some help so Sam Bradford can stop getting his head knocked off and knocked out of the games, and they need some secondary help. Then you got the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are kind of in the same boat as the Houston Texans, that have a greater need at quarterback than they do at a defensive guy. They also, of course, now the Jacksonville also needs a running back because they did get rid of Maurice Jones-Drew. And then they need an offensive line. They're all offensive needs as well, is my opinion, with Jacksonville. So does Jacksonville say, oh, how can we pass on this guy now? And if they do, then you got number 4, Cleveland Browns. Same scenario. Cleveland Browns are all in need of offense. They clearly need a quarterback. They clearly need a running back because they traded away Trent Richardson. And they clearly need some offensive line help. So now we're running down to number 5, the Oakland Raiders. This would be a perfect Oakland Raider pick. The Oakland Raiders are also in need of a quarterback. They're also in need of an offensive line, and they certainly need a wide receiver. But this would be the classic Oakland Raiders pick to pick a Jadeveon Clowney. They have picked, although the Raiders did sign free agent Justin Tuck. Oops. They got Lamar Woodley from the Steelers. They do, so they kind of short up a little bit there, but I don't think that they could pass on a guy like that. And if he doesn't, I think the Falcons are right there at 6. And honestly, if Jadeveon Clowney's not pick number 1, I'm going to tell you right now, the Falcons are going to be trading up to make sure that they get him. And that's going to benefit. And that's going to benefit Jacksonville because I really don't truly believe the Rams would take him in any scenario. But Atlanta still might try to get that number 2 pick just to be sure. And then St. Louis has got him over the coals. And anybody that's seen the movie Draft Day will understand what I'm talking about. So I just want to bring up that scenario because, Houston has a record of picking their number 1 pick not being what everybody expects. When they picked Mario Williams, for instance, quite a few years back, no one expected that to happen. It turned out, for the most part, pretty well. But Houston is in need. What are they going to do to address their quarterback needs? Now, here's another scenario. And then we'll move on and we'll kind of start going through picks. But what if, and this is like a super crazy scenario, and it's only one that's going through my mind only because I'm a fan of this other team. What if a team that's normally known for drafting down and out of the first round most of the time, like the New England Patriots I'm referring to, what if they offered up to get the number 1 pick? Because the Patriots are clearly in need of defensive help, to start helping out guys like Vince Wilfork, who, thank goodness, they held on to. What if they offered Ryan Mallett their first-round pick and maybe another round pick somewhere? You think Houston would bite at that? I'm talking to you on the other side of the glass.
Oh, I thought you were doing one of those radio things where you sit there and you give like a.
Well, I am. I'm posing the
seconds.
question to everybody, but I was also posing the question to you.
My fault. No, I do not. I think that if they offered it up, they would bite for it, but I don't think they're going to offer it up.
Well, here's the thing. You're going to get the quarterback that you badly need. I think there's a lot of people like Ryan Mallett. I like Ryan Mallett. I just don't know that he has another 2 years or so to wait around for Brady to go away. And you got to get something for him while the iron's hot. I honestly, truly believe that that's what the Patriots are going to end up doing. Is they're going to end up trading him at some point in this draft, whether it be to move up or to move up and then to move back down again to get even more picks. And that's really what I'm really looking here. I'm not looking at them necessarily to take the number 1 pick and pick Jadeveon Clowney, which would be super awesome. I think it would be another tactic for them to get that position, to trade that position out and get more picks. Just crazy scenarios. I think there's going to be some first round movements this year. I think they're going to try to move around. I honestly think the Buccaneers may even end up doing it, depending on who falls down that route. Just scenarios out there, because the Bucs are also shopping Mike Glennon. I don't know how many people are really how high they are on him. Honestly, he wasn't something special, but I didn't think he was all that bad. And for a rookie getting thrown into the situation he was thrown into last year, with the lack of support around him, that being he's working with a third-string running back, really only having one wideout that he can go to and trust, Still only, still threw 19 touchdown passes and only 9 interceptions in 13 games. That's impressive. Not too many rookies go out there and throw more touchdowns than interceptions, and let alone 10 more touchdowns than interceptions. It just doesn't happen that often. So what team might be interested in that, in some kind of package deal? I don't know.
Comment from Mark saying, maybe I'm a Texans fan, but I'm not amped for this year's draft. Oh, wait, excuse me. God, I can't read. I'm going to quit life.
He is amped.
Maybe it's because I'm a Texans fan, but I'm amped for this year's draft. There are no clear-cut favorites, and no one has any idea, except maybe the Texans, of who's going first, or if the Texans will even pick first. Thank you, Mark, for the comment that I couldn't read.
Well, and here's the thing with Texans too, and maybe they have their quarterback for the right now, kind of like the Bucks. They have the quarterback for the right now.
It's a Band-Aid, right?
Right. I mean, the Texans went from a playoff team with one of the best records just 2 years ago to having the NFL's worst record in 1 year. 1 year, and that was because of abysmal quarterback play. Now, if they want to contend quickly again, because honestly, they have talent there. You still got a pretty decent defense. I think we can all agree with that. You've got an Arian Foster. You just need a quarterback. They signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. Buffalo fans will tell you, have fun with that. But he's been consistently one of the NFL's most reliable backup quarterbacks and spot starters. He might be a short-term stopgap for them for the next year or two until maybe a better crop of quarterback come out. I mean, I think next year's class is going to be just as good as this year's class, if not even better. And they don't have to get a first-round one. There's going to be plenty of guys beyond the first round. The Mettenbergers, the Garoppolos, even an AJ McCarron. Some of these guys that have been, there's something to be said too about an AJ McCarron type or somebody that's been playing in an Alabama program for 4 years. Proven winner. I don't know how you can go wrong with that. So I think Houston's going to ultimately not mess around. They're going to pull the trigger on Clowney. I think it's going to be, if he doesn't though, I think the whole draft is going to be turned up. So it's going to be very interesting if they don't. And a big part of me hopes that they don't, because I really would love to see the chain reaction of these other teams that kind of just went through to see what's going to happen. So my feeling is, as badly as they need a quarterback, they probably have the patchwork quarterbacks in place, whether it be Case Keenum, Ryan Fitzpatrick, or what have you in the meantime. I think that, they could trade down for that matter, get a couple extra picks, and they could still probably likely land a Bortles or a Bridgewater, or even Derek Carr for that matter. I think Derek Carr, a lot of people are high on him, but I think in the back of their mind, they're like, geez, he is David Carr's brother. And do the Houston Texans really want to put themselves through another Carr at quarterback? They had his brother David, and he was for all intents and purposes was a bust. Is Derek any better? They say he is. I don't know. So I believe that the Houston Texans will go ahead and do the right thing and do the smart thing, and they're going to go ahead and take Clowney. That's my thinking. A lot of times when we speculate and think that all these things are going to happen and these trades and that trades, things don't ever come to fruition, and teams just do what they do, and the surprises come a little bit later usually.
Well, in my opinion, the first pick of the 2014 NFL Draft by the Houston Texans will be Jadeveon Clowney. Or, and we're going to throw out one of those hypotheticals that you were throwing out earlier. Atlanta's going to trade up to get Clowney. I think Atlanta may trade up for the number one spot.
That's what I was. I don't know.
But again, that's I don't know. But I think the Texans will take Clowney. Yes.
I don't know that the Falcons have enough to offer up for the number one.
That's true.
That's why that's why I was saying before. I think that if Houston doesn't pick Clowney, I clearly see Atlanta jumping to move
right
at least to number 3. I don't think the Rams are going to take Clowney, even if he's on the board. They just simply don't need that position, and it would not behoove them to do that unless it was a situation where they draft him and they work a deal later. Kind of like they do in the NBA all the time. Right. Team drafts a guy, but 10 minutes after the draft's over, his rights have been traded to Team B, and Team B has traded him to Team C, and that's. But I agree with you. I think Atlanta really would love to have him. If Houston doesn't take him, Atlanta's going to probably do whatever they can to move up to snag him. So I don't disagree with you there. But let's assume that that's not what happens. I don't see that happening then. So then we move on to the Rams. You have the number 2 pick, as well as they have the number 2 pick because of their trade with the Washington Redskins. And I bet the Redskins wish they had that number 2 pick now. And the Rams also have the 13th pick. So the Rams are actually sitting pretty. So even if the Rams still wanted a quarterback for whatever reason, a defensive guy for whatever reason, they could probably still get one at 13. But the Rams are in need of a wide receiver for sure. They need a small offensive line, and they need some secondary help. I think that they need some secondary help because they clearly got burned quite a few times last year. If it weren't for their defensive line being one of the best in football, it probably would have been a lot worse. So if you can shore up your secondary with a defensive line like that, your defense is good to go. But I honestly think that wide receiver is where they're in desperate need of also. They don't have a clear number 1, although Tavon Austin, who they drafted last year, kind of started to break out towards the end of the year. So, but I don't know that he's still a clear number 1. I think that you could still use your second round pick and your 13th pick, either one of those, and get a corner like a Justin Gilbert. Or your boy from Virginia Tech, Kyle Fuller.
Yeah, baby. By the way, real quick, I saw it last night, pumped me up. Virginia Tech is playing at Ohio State this year.
No, yeah.
I'm glued to that thing. I hate Urban Meyer.
I hear you. Sorry, Lisa.
Yeah, Virginia Tech's going to come in your house and beat you down.
But, there's also safeties out there. The Rams could use the safety as well. You got Florida State's LaMarcus Joyner, who's coming out early. Philip Gaines out of Rice. He's got a good eye for the ball. But they could still get some good. There's still going to be some decent guys at that position too later in those later rounds. I really truly think that the Rams might be looking at offensive line, and if they do that, there's several out there. You got is that your pick?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't even mean to do that. I'm working with this little cool thing where I can have both of us on the camera at one time.
Yeah, I see that.
But now it's stuck on this, and it's annoying. Sorry.
Well, you could fix it.
I could. You're right.
So I don't know. Well, it'd be interesting. You got the kid from Texas A&M that they could probably the top offensive lineman that they're
Jake
looking
Matthews.
at. Thank you. Name was slipping my mind for a moment for whatever reason. So that could be something I believe that the Rams may do. I'm looking at that.
Are you ready for it, folks? Here we go. So your pick is Jake Matthews?
I think they're going to go offensive line here. I think that they can get value at the corner and safety position either with their 13th pick still. So that's the key. They got their 13th pick. I don't think that this offensive line, Jake Matthews, is going to slip that far down to them. I think you snag him with your second pick. You're still going to get solid value with your 13th pick at corner, safety, or even wide receiver for that matter. This receiving core, this receivers draft is very deep. So I think they're going to get value no matter what at 13. So use your 2 to get the one position that you can't do without. Can shore up your offensive line for a good decade and take the offensive lineman.
I think I just love playing that. My pick and the second pick of the 2014 NFL Draft going to the St. Louis Rams. Greg Robinson, offensive tackle from Auburn.
Well, that's a possibility too.
That is my pick. I believe that.
It'd still be an offensive lineman pick. so-
Yes. I think Jake Matthews is the number 2 offensive lineman. Greg Robinson out of Auburn, definitely the top. And like we were talking about, Houston's going to take Clowney. And St. Louis doesn't need defense unless it's at the corner or safety position, just like you were saying. Greg Robinson is the pick.
Yep, no doubt about it. So we move on to number 3, and we got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Jacksonville's defense was pretty bad, but they did a lot of. Jacksonville signed a lot of guys in free agency. They added Jason Babin, Chris Clemens, really good signing there. Red Bryant, Ziggy Hood. Now, I think that the Jacksonville, and here's another franchise, same situation I was talking about before, continually makes bad choices at quarterback. The Blaine Gabbert experiment is over, and Jacksonville has been struggling to find a good quarterback since Mark Brunell, and that's been a long time. And
That's like 2004.
yeah,
My God.
I mean, they've Byron Leftwich, they've tried them all, and they've just made bad choices at quarterback. But I honestly think that they've shored up their defense enough with the free agency that they're definitely offensive geared in this draft. They clearly need a quarterback. They clearly need a running back, and they need some offensive line help. They haven't had, their offensive line's been a problem since Boselli's retirement. I mean, they've had really bad. They really screwed up when they traded their first round. When they made Blaine Gabbert their first round pick, they've now, obviously we all know that they traded him this offseason. They picked up a goofy 6th round pick for him. I mean, they got Chad Henne. He's functionable. He really hasn't played that poorly for them, but he's not the future.
Speaking of garbage Jacksonville picks, I think it's funny how you always see that meme around how they chose a punter over Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Well,
Do you not know what I'm talking about?
yes, I do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that this is where you're going to see one of the first quarterbacks go. Now, the question is, what does Jacksonville want to do with that?
Are you ready for this? Is it time for mine?
I will let you go first.
With a 2014, God, I can't even speak. I hate Roger Goodell's job. It's all he does all year is just goes out and says that, and I can't even do it. With the 3rd pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Sammy Watkins from Clemson.
Dude, you're out of your mind.
No.
You're out your mind.
Nope.
Although Justin Blackman may not play for them again, their need is not at receiver. They need some.
Who's on the opposite side of
Who's going to throw him
Justin
the ball?
Blackman?
Who's going to throw him the ball?
Chad Henne's fine.
No, he's
Yes,
not fine.
Come on.
They need something for the long term.
Chad Henne's fine.
Here's the problem. If you have a stud receiver like that, but you still don't have anything in the future to throw to him, what's the point?
Here's my thing. Okay, I was coming here, sat down,
I'm throwing it out there. That's
and
all.
I thought about it. My original 3rd pick
That was your first mistake.
My original 3rd pick at Jacksonville was going to be Teddy Bridgewater.
Uh-huh.
But I believe Justin Blackman on one side.
I believe.
Well, okay. I believe Justin Blackman on one side and Sammy
Justin
Watkins.
Blackman's probably not going to play for them again.
Okay. Now name the other receiver next to Justin Blackman. Exactly.
I'm still chewing.
Okay, who's the second receiver?
I still can't tell you. I'm just.
Thank you. Sammy Watkins is the 3rd pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay. I don't see it that way.
That's if they don't go quarterback.
Well, honey, you can't do that because they're not. They're. I just got done saying this is where the first quarterback's going to go,
well, I don't
and then
think
I
so.
let you go first, and then you say, "Well, he's going to take Sammy Watkins if they don't take a quarterback." Well, the point
Sammy
is that
Watkins will be their pick.
no,
There.
they're going to go quarterback at this position.
And which one?
The only way they won't go quarterback at this position is if they trade out of this position. In other words, trade down for a team maybe such as an Atlanta or something that who may still want to slide up in this spot to take a Khalil Mack. All right, so you still got Atlanta still wanting a defensive guy. They may not get Jadeveon Clowney, but I'm sure they're certainly high on Khalil Mack.
Now,
So,
I never even thought about that. And
Okay.
that's actually that's a very, very intelligent analysis.
so I think that Jacksonville is in a really good spot here because at number 3, they're either going to take the first quarterback, or if a team, maybe even the Raiders too, for that matter, might want to slide up into that spot. But I think the Falcons, you got to look for some teams that might trade up into that position. So I think if Jacksonville stays put and they don't trade out of this position, they're taking one of those quarterbacks, whether it be the guy that's going to put butts in their seats, which Jacksonville sorely needs. But they clearly don't care about that because otherwise they would have wasted time picking up Tim Tebow. So I'll give them credit for that because they easily could have picked him up since he was a local kid, and they would have drawn asses in that seat that don't show up. So they clearly are at least not going that route. But I think they would probably take either the Manziel, the Bridgewater, or the Bortles at this position. Now, should they trade out of this position with one of those other teams that we mentioned, or maybe another team that we're not even thinking about, and slide down, they could probably, I think they'll still remain in the first round and still can get a quarterback at a better value at a lower pick.
And that's why I say Jacksonville's going to take their seat.
And what I mean by lower value or better value is obviously now that the NFL slots their money for their for rookies as opposed to before where there really was no cap. Now they've done the right thing and they've slotted. You can only make so much at X amount of position. So as you pick lower and lower, the slot monetarily drops with it. So that's what I mean by better value, where you can still get that quarterback that you need. Again, there's not there's not a lot of separation between any of these quarterbacks. There just isn't, in my opinion. And we've had a couple former quarterbacks on this show that have said just as much. So this isn't just coming from me. This is coming from guys in the game, in the know, that do this and watch this and see this every single day. So I'm not bringing something to the table that's like I'm some magician or something, but so you get a better value, save some cap space. I see Jacksonville, though, if they stay in this position, taking one of those 3 quarterbacks. If not, they could fill their needs with less liability selections, such as the usual suspects that we keep mentioning. The Garoppolos, the Mettenbergers, the McCarrons, that kind of such.
Mm-hmm.
So
Interesting.
yeah.
But no,
I think Jacksonville is the best spot for Jacksonville right now. I really do, because and the only thing that's going to screw that up is if what's going to benefit them more is if the Texans don't take Clowney, then I think Jacksonville's sitting pretty. Then they might as well own the first round pick at that point, because I really think the Rams aren't going to take him and they're in no position. So that Jacksonville, for all intents and purposes, will have the number 1 pick at that point, and they can dictate all terms.
Absolutely.
And even if they do take Clowney, Jacksonville's still in a good spot because the Rams still aren't going to take anybody else. And I think there's so many teams behind Jacksonville that's in much in need as them. So I think it's going to be interesting. But let's just stick with them staying in spot. I think they're going to take quarterback with that position, and we move on to Cleveland Browns at number 4. Now, Cleveland Browns, as I also mentioned, also have another first round pick. More towards the bottom, they have the 26th pick also. And yes, you got a little laugh out of the Browns. They are laughable. They are probably the worst franchise in the NFL. Not necessarily always just the worst run franchise. That's basically what I'm talking about. Their needs, in my opinion, and not just my opinion, but shared by others, obviously, I don't think anybody can disagree. They're in desperate need of quarterback. They could probably use some offensive line help, and as we talked about, since they traded Trent Richardson, they're going to be in need of a running back. My opinion is I don't think, unless Cleveland moves up, they're definitely staying in place, unless somebody wants to offer them the moon. I'd be very, very surprised if the Browns don't take a quarterback with this pick. Remember, they got rid of the Brandon Weeden project, and they got rid of Jason Campbell during the first week of free agency. Everybody thought they were doing that so they could sign a quarterback, and they didn't do that. So they have lots of picks later on, including it. Well, again, they have another pick in the first round, but they also have a lot of secondary round picks, later on. They have a lot of draft picks this year. So quite honestly, if they really wanted to move up, they have enough ammunition to do so. But I don't know that they need to. I think the Browns should keep all those picks, and they can still get a quarterback that they can use at this number 4 pick without a doubt. Without a doubt. And then they'll have all those extra picks to shore up all those other needs that they need, which they'll be able to get in the later rounds. So I see the Cleveland Browns definitely taking a quarterback, and I think if Manziel's there, that's their guy. That's just my gut feeling. That's who I think that they're going to take if he is not taken before that. But even if he is, I think that they're going to take one of those other quarterbacks, whether it be Bridgewater, Bortles, Carr, whoever. The Browns are going quarterback no matter what.
Well, with the 4th pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, I am going to say the Cleveland Browns select. That's right, you guessed it. Pretty boy Johnny Manziel at quarterback.
I agree. I think this is where Manziel's going to drop. I think.
Now, most people have him 5th going to the Raiders. I disagree.
I do. I do not see Manziel getting past. He may get past Jacksonville. I don't see him getting past Cleveland also. I just don't.
Let me tell you something, though. I was looking at some mock drafts, and I've got to tell you.
Mock drafts.
I don't insult anybody because, honestly, these sports writers do know a little more about this kind of stuff because they're around it more.
No, they don't.
But when someone tells me that Sammy Watkins is going to Cleveland or
I've seen it too.
Khalil Mack is going to Cleveland, you idiots.
Yeah, I mean, there's just absolutely. I mean, although it is the Cleveland Browns. I just got done saying that they are the worst run franchise in the NFL. It wouldn't surprise me if they did go and take a Watkins or something like that. Hey, we got no one to throw to you, but we'll pick you anyway.
That's right.
So, I mean,
that's right.
Brian Hoyer's our man.
Hell yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me. Realistically, though, I honestly think the Browns are finally getting their stuff together. And they're going on the right track. They knew something the rest of us didn't about Trent Richardson, and I remember when that trade happened that I thought it was the dumbest thing ever. I said, the Browns were bad enough, and then they go and trade their best guy, and we found out real fast that the Browns were actually better without him, at least for a few weeks there, and then they kind of hit the crapper after that.
And let me remind you, Scuba, and everybody else listening out there, the Browns signed Ben Tate to a 2-year deal. Ben Tate, in my opinion, is the number 1 for Cleveland. I don't think they will take a running back.
Well, we'll see. I mean, he did well in Houston filling in there, and I think he used to come in, though, at the right times. I don't really know that he's a true workhorse because when Arian Foster went down and he was the guy, the running back, his numbers weren't the same. So
okay.
I think he was a situational guy at the right spot, but, what do I know? But yeah, I mean, I will be laughing my butt off if they take anything other than a quarterback at this position, assuming they don't trade out of it. Okay. Then we got the Raiders.
What would be really great is if Cleveland was like, and with the 4th pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Tyrod Taylor, Virginia Tech.
Yeah, no, that's kind of a Raiders kind of a pick. That's a Raiders move. Who we are up now,
that's
number
right.
5, the Raiders. Now, don't hesitate to give us a call if you guys all have a different opinion. You can give us a call. Zach has the number. He changed the number on me, so I don't know it now.
813-639-8255.
8255?
Correct.
639?
813-639-8255.
All right. So we move on to the Oakland Raiders, who I think we all agree as well also need
everything.
As always, a quarterback, wide receiver, offensive line. They kind of shored up some of their defensive needs that they needed with free agency, but they got some guys that are, as the Raiders typically do, get guys that are on the tail end of their career and not at the upswing of their career. Another part of the problem with the Raiders is that they're still working under Patchwork Orange, which doesn't work. You have to have other talent to make patchwork guys fill in. They could, they could surprise us too and take one of them offensive linemen that are sitting up there too, But I don't know. They picked up a couple young guys too for that, so maybe they're going to be content with that. I think the Raiders are going to take a quarterback as well, whether they pick them here at 5 or they stupidly move up a slot or two to take somebody else higher. I know the Raiders would love to take a guy like a Manziel, But this is the Raiders we're talking about. They did trade for Matt Schaub. He's already been named the team's starting quarterback. But Schaub, the reason the Texans got rid of him was how poorly he was playing. He threw more touchdown passes to the other teams than he did to his own teammates.
Ouch.
It's true. He set a record for pick sixes. But anyway, so maybe the Raiders would be stupid and not pick a quarterback. They might go somewhere. They might go a different route here. Listen, it wasn't too long ago that they had a number 1 pick, like a 10 or 11, and they took Hayward Bay, for crying out loud, in the first round.
What a stud he's turned out to be.
Right? And no one projected him as a first rounder at all.
Actually, let me tell you, I want to throw out a quick shout out to somebody who is listening into the show. My dad's friend Patrick, who's in my fantasy league, he takes Darius Hayward Bay every year and has since his rookie year.
That's ridiculous.
Just like I have that love with Jabbar Gaffney, even though I've come to the realization that I can't draft him anymore. Darius Hayward Bay is picked by Patrick every single year. Good job, Patrick.
Yeah, nice work.
And that's why he never wins.
Sometimes we have to let our hearts step aside when it comes to fantasy football. Well, so I don't know. The Raiders are always an enigma. You never really know what they're going to do. Although now that the true enigma is dead, they might have some real sense about that organization now. Maybe they'll be a little bit smart. I think that they would love to have a Manziel if he's there, or they might love him enough where they'll move up to make sure that they get him. It'd be a classic Raiders marketing move. Who I think the Raiders have always been more in tune with marketing their team as opposed to making them a good team to watch. They're, in my opinion, at least especially in the last decade, the Raiders should really change their motto from commitment to excellence to commitment to excrement. Because they've been crap for the last 10 years and continue to draft like crap. But you know what? That part of it's gone. He's dead. And I think now the real football guys can really start making the decisions there. So I see them that they're gonna land one of those quarterbacks, the Manziel, the Bridgewater, or the Bortles, or Carr. Keep running those same names up there because again, there's not a whole lot of separation between them. Each of these 4 guys have been mentioned as the top quarterback. Depending on what week you're listening.
Exactly.
So I'd be surprised if they don't do that. If the Raiders pull a Raider move and take a wide receiver or something, like a Sammy Watkins, that would also be another marketing move. Going back to the old classic Raider moves of getting fast receivers, they would actually get a fast receiver and one that could actually catch the ball. And they could then the Raiders might look to get that quarterback in one of the later rounds, the second or third round, with the other usual cast of characters we have rated in that area: the Mettenbergers, the McCarrons, the Garoppolos, the Murrays, the Savages, etc., etc., etc. Your choice for the Raiders.
Well, with the 5th pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, the Oakland Raiders will not take a quarterback.
What?
They are going to get somebody to protect Matt Schaub, and that man will be Jake Matthews, offensive tackle from Texas A&M.
And I would not be surprised.
6'6", 308 pounds.
I would not be surprised. Like I said, the only step back from getting that offensive lineman is that I think they did feel comfortable with Monique Watson who they had, the second-year guy. I think they were pretty happy with the way he was progressing, and they did acquire Austin Howard
Yep.
as an offensive tackle also. So, but outside of that, though, they could use some talent upgrade there. There's no question. So a move like that, if he's not taken, by the Rams, like I thought they might, and since you already took the other offensive lineman up at that pick, then this would make sense. I mean, I could see an offensive lineman, Jake Matthews, or your Auburn feller going at this spot.
Well, and here's the thing: is I think that Oakland's going to take a quarterback later, like we were talking about, one of the Murrays, the Garoppolos, the Mettenbergers, the Savages, one of those men, and I think that he's going to go later because I think Oakland feels that Matt Schaub is the starter right now, and that's not going to change. What I think they're going to do is they're going to bring in someone to learn from Matt Schaub because Matt Schaub's a vet, okay? Whether we like it or not, he's a veteran, and I think they're going to take a quarterback later in the draft who will be ready in the next 3 years to start.
I don't disagree with you. I don't. I'm having a hard time getting over the history of the Raiders. I know Al Davis is dead. I think if Al Davis is there, well, he is. He's dead.
I know.
I mean, if Al Davis was there, I see them taking quarterback, no question. So that's why I still think they're going to take quarterback. I don't know if they're fully away from him yet, but I would not see your choice being out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
So we move on to number 6, the Atlanta Falcons, who we've been talking about quite a bit. Sitting at number 6, if they do not trade up, they clearly need a pass rusher. We've been talking about that. A guy to come off the edge. Certainly could use an outside linebacker. They're also needed some offensive help. Matt Ryan was on his butt a lot last year, and of course they lost. Tony Gonzalez is finally going to go out and collect Social Security, and he's decided to retire. So they're going to be in need of a tight end. They didn't pick up anybody in free agency, so they may need a tight end. Now, this is an interesting move. I mean, there's a top tight end out there, Ebron from North Carolina. Do you take him in the first round? Because there is not a whole lot of tight end talent out there, and you're clearly in need of one. Do you go that route and hope that you can get your defensive needs in later rounds? Because we don't know exactly what the Falcons are going to run right now because they've already, defensively that is, because they run a hybrid of a 4-3 and a 3-4. They do a little bit of both. So I don't know, so when I say they needed an edge defender, pass rusher, that could be an outside linebacker, which there's more depth at, or it could be a defensive end, which there's not quite as much depth at. So, Osi Umenyiora is well beyond his prime. He was really basically, in my opinion, was non-existent last year. I think the Giants got rid of him at the perfect time. They got Crowley Bierman. He's okay. He's not going to get you a bunch of sacks. But he's coming off a serious Achilles injury. I mean, how good is he going to be? Massaquoi, he's kind of started to develop a little bit. He's, second year, he'll be a third year guy, but I don't think he's a real big answer either. I really honestly think that the Falcons want Jadeveon Clowney or Khalil Mack. And I think they're going to do whatever they need to do to make sure that happens. Up to this point, we haven't really said Khalil Mack's going to go in any of these picks. So I think maybe they'll get him.
I agree 100%. Khalil Mack to the Atlanta Falcons.
If he slips down that far.
Well, and that's the thing is, and you said Khalil Mack may go to Jacksonville. But here's the thing also is we talked about it earlier. The Falcons may trade up to get Clowney if Houston passes up. That's I think the Falcons is the biggest question right now on what they're going to do.
I agree. And then because they're in such a need of a pass rusher, one way or the other, whether it be, and again, it can be a defensive end Clowney type or an outside linebacker Khalil Mack type. That's where the Falcons are actually in a good position themselves, because if they decide that one of those two guys are who they want, there's no doubt in my mind they're drafting. They're going to move up. They're going to have to, because there's just too many question marks about if Clowney's gone, then he's gone, and then you're left with trying to get Khalil Mack, and the only way you're going to do that is to move up. Although we haven't said he's going to get selected before, I still think that Khalil Mack could possibly not get past Jacksonville, or even Cleveland or the Raiders could step in there too. So I honestly think that if there's going to be a first round, this is going to be the first move, and it's going to be the Falcons, and they're going to trade up. I do not think the Falcons will be picking at 6, but assuming they do, I think we're in agreement there. So then we move on to
the hometown, baby.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, interesting. The Buccaneers are also in an interesting position. I'm convinced, and I'm almost positive, that the Bucs are not going to go quarterback at this position. And I think if the Bucs go at quarterback at this position, they're going to be in the same category as all these other teams I keep telling you that make bad first-round picks at quarterback and continue to have losing ways because of it. The last first-round quarterback the Bucs took, Josh Freeman, I don't think we need to go any further. Okay? The Bucs historically have not had a good quarterback. They've had functional quarterbacks, but they never really had a great one. Mm-hmm. Doug Williams maybe is an exception, but, that's a whole other issue, a whole other decade and so forth. And consistently, the Bucs have been pretty horrible.
Absolutely.
I believe the Bucs have done what they need to do. They've got their patchwork quarterback at least for the next 2 years. I do not think that they're in a desperation situation where they need to take a quarterback now, contrary to popular belief. I think that any of these quarterbacks out there are a reach as a first-round pick, and if the Bucs can just sit idly by and wait till the later rounds, which they don't have a lot of picks, but if they wait till the later rounds and go for one of these other secondary tier quarterbacks, which I honestly don't believe are any worse than these other guys are projecting in the first round, I think the Bucs will be just fine by themselves doing something like that. The Bucs have more glaring needs at this immediate time, and I think at this position, you are going to have your choice of wide receiver. You need a wide receiver. No ifs, no ands, no buts.
Buts.
Exactly. They have Vincent Jackson and a bunch of third and fourth receivers. They do not have a clear number 2 receiver. The free agent acquisitions are not it. The guys they still have left on their roster are not it. Other people can argue the Bucs also need a corner because they don't have Revis anymore. I think they need some corner depth. They are not in need of a starting corner. They have the guys that they need. They signed a couple veterans. Vereen is a Pro Bowler. Mike Jenkins, hometown boy. A lot of NFL experience. He's going to be fine. They do not need a corner immediately. Their immediate need is wide receiver, and the only way they're going to get one is to get maybe someone during time when training camps open up and other guys start getting cut, because the guys that they've selected are not quality number 2 guys. Which brings us to the wide receivers that could potentially be available if they have slipped here. Sammy Watkins or Mike Evans. If the Bucs get anybody other than these 2 guys, providing nothing out of the ordinary happens with the Khalil Mack falling down that far or something like that, I'd be really, really surprised if the Bucs do not take a Sammy Watkins or a Mike Evans, no matter how deep this wide receiving core is. These guys, I think, again, barring any type of injury or anything like that, are not. These are the type of receivers that are spot on receivers that are going to be able to step in right away and they're going to be productive. There's not really any question marks about either one of these guys. They both have amazing athleticism. They both ran phenomenal 40s. There's really not a whole lot of polishing that needs to be done except making the transition from the guys they had thrown on the ball. Watkins had Taj Boyd, and Mike Evans benefited from having Johnny Manziel. 2 other quarterbacks, by the way, that'll be out there. or Taj Boyd I'm talking about. So they have had the benefit of having great quarterbacks throwing to them, but I also think that they've also helped those quarterbacks quite a bit. So I like the Bucs taking a receiver here, unless, of course, the Bucs decide to trade that pick down to acquire other picks. And I could certainly see that happening. But I like wide receiver. That's what I want to see at this pick from the Buccaneers. Again, providing that no guy like a Khalil Mack or somebody slips down to that spot. I do not want to see a quarterback picked with this, and that's my shot. I see a wide receiver going here, whether it be a Watkins slipping down that far, which is probably unlikely. But I think Mike Evans is sitting there. I think you got to take him. Your thoughts? And Zach, cue the music.
My pick. The 7th pick in the 2014 NFL Draft, and I already have 4 people texting me that they're going to call in. Here come the calls. I'll let them take their pick before my pick. I'm going to build up the intensity. Caller, welcome to the 2 Cent Sports and Entertainment Show. What's your name and what's your purpose?
My name is Fernando Malaco.
How are you,
How you
Fernando?
doing, Fernando?
I am good.
Now, let me ask you, I believe you wanted to call in about who the Buccaneers are going to take this year.
I do have a thought of 2 players they should pick up, Johnny Manziel and Sammy Watkins.
Woo!
All right.
Now, let me ask you a question. Why Johnny Manziel?
Well, Mike Glennon, I don't think could get the job done, and I also don't believe the other quarterback. I think it's the McCown brother.
Josh McCown, yes.
Yeah, I don't think they both can get the job done that the Bucs need to get done to get to the playoffs.
But why do you think Manziel is the guy that can do that, though?
He's got the legs, he's got the arm. He was in a conference with hard smash mouth teams like Alabama. He beat Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
He has a winning mentality, and he can get the job done.
I don't think there's any question there. But my question to you would be: then who's he going to throw the ball to?
Well, that's the other problem for the Bucs. That's why I also said Sammy Watkins.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the thing, real quick. You probably can't hear me because my mic's not turned up. But anyway, I think I have Sammy Watkins going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I think the only choice for the Bucs, and Fernando, you get to witness this. It's time for my pick that the music doesn't want to play. I think the Buccaneers are going to take wide receiver Mike Evans with this 7th pick.
Yeah.
That's another choice they could.
All right. Yeah,
like
Fernando,
if Watkins is gone and Manziel, they should take Evans.
Yeah, Fernando. I mean, your thoughts are not off base by any means whatsoever. I mean, that's certainly the big talk going around here. I just honestly, no, I don't think anybody here believes that McCown is the long-term answer. That's why they only signed him to a 2-year deal. I think the reason they signed into a 2-year deal is because it gave 2 more years for the next class of quarterbacks to come out, with the sole purpose of the Bucs actually trying to get one of these other second-tier quarterbacks in the later rounds, whether it be a McCarron from Alabama, a proven winner, a Mettenberg, or an Aaron Murray, local kid.
Yeah, Aaron Murray, definitely.
And
plant quarterback.
Absolutely. So I truly believe I think that's what the Bucs are going to do. I think the Bucs are going to get a value pick at 7 and save the quarterback pick for a later round. See if they might, get a pull a Russell Wilson type situation and get a guy. I truly believe that Aaron Murray is going to be a fantastic quarterback. And outside
McCarron too. McCarron won.
Yeah, he's a winner.
2 national championships.
Yep. No question. And I don't think that you can put, enough value on a guy that's been in a program like Alabama that, for all intents and purposes, is an NFL, minor league program, and for 4 years and a proven winner. I think that shows you've got a guy that's got leadership capabilities, a guy that knows how to win, so he can bring a winning attitude with him. You've never heard a bad thing about him except for the fact that he broke up with that hot girlfriend of his. But I mean, he's solid. So that is my opinion. I mean, Johnny Manziel would be the flashy pick here. I don't think the Bucs are looking for flash. I also don't think they're looking
Flash.
Yeah.
Ah.
Well,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
with Manziel, he is going to have some trouble. I think we saw it in college. He got a little over his head, and that may lead into the NFL with him. He's not mature yet.
Yes.
That's not good. You need maturity.
But did we really hear a lot about him after all that off season? I mean, there was. I mean, with the exception of those first games coming back, with the money thing he did after throwing a touchdown pass and so forth. After that, we really didn't hear anything bad about him. I haven't heard anything bad about him since the season ended or nothing like that. So, honestly, I chalk that up to a kid that look, he's a freshman. I mean, 19 years old or whatever. Heisman Trophy. He's going all across the country and doing this and doing that. It's hard not to get wrapped up in all that. And he hasn't had any incidents since then, and I don't have that concern about him much anymore. It's certainly got to be there in the back of your mind, though. But you're right, Fernando. You're absolutely correct.
Thank you.
All right,
thanks
Fernando,
for the call.
Thanks
Appreciate
for the call, buddy. Take care.
You're welcome.
Well, I got to disagree with him on the Johnny Manziel. Tom Jones from 620 WDAE, he told me that Johnny Manziel, if he was available with Sammy Watkins and with Mike Evans on the board, the Bucs should take him. And I'm like, sir, you've been on the Johnny Manziel train for about two and a half, 3 years now. Can you stop?
Yeah, he's got a cream pie for Johnny Manziel, that's for sure. So yeah, I think. I'm liking it. I think that the Bucs will go receiver. I don't think that they're going. I really truly believe, and if you really pay attention to what Lovie Smith has been saying, I think he's under that impression that the Bucs are going to go for that quarterback in the later rounds. So we've got to move on.
Yeah,
we really got to move on.
Yeah, I know we're short. we're
gonna
starting to
overanalyze here, so we'll have to go. I'm going to try to go through here a little bit quicker.
Yeah, it's just
so number 8, we got the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Vikings are their need, obviously. It seems like everybody they need a quarterback. There's no question there.
Yes.
No longer have Christian Ponder,
who was so great.
Yes, they have been stuck in a rut at quarterback, just like some of these other teams. Same thing, picking bad quarterbacks. I think Christian Ponder is probably going to be trade bait for the Vikings. The Vikings could conceivably even try to move up. I don't think Matt Castle's the answer there. He's signed a 2-year deal also. I think if you really look at some of these scrap heap quarterbacks that are getting signed, they're getting signed to 2-year deals because they know that, and we got a call coming in, but let me finish this thought real quick, that these teams know that there's other quarterbacks coming up next year and the year after that they got to have their eyes on, and that's why these quarterbacks are getting these 2-year deals. They're patchworks to wait because this class is not that solid.
You ready to take the caller? Caller, welcome to the 2 Cent Sports and Entertainment Show. State your name and your purpose, please.
My name is Chris Jameson. I'm here to talk about the draft.
All right, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts?
Obviously, I think everybody thinks the Bucs are going to pick up Manziel. That's kind of the cliche name for the Bucs. I could see him getting another franchise after Freeman left, and I personally don't think that the quarterback that they have now is a franchise quarterback. So I think what they're going to try to do is trade up to the second round and pick up Sammy Watkins.
Wow.
Well, that's definitely a possibility. I agree with you. I'm not one that thinks that they're going to take a quarterback. As I just said, I think they're going to wait to try to grab a quarterback in the later rounds, get some of these other tier quarterbacks that are being mentioned. That I really don't think that there's much of a difference between all these other guys they keep talking about. I really think this, the Bridgewaters, the Manziel, et cetera, the Bortles are not in any other draft, probably aren't number 1 draft picks or first round draft picks. I think they're lower round draft picks, and I think that's the way the Bucs are truly viewing these guys. So why not let them fall? Let other teams take them, and then they'll pick up these other guys that aren't going to get scooped up in those later rounds. I'm with you. I think the Buccaneers are definitely going to go receiver with their pick, whether it's at 7 or if they trade up, like you said, to make sure that they get that receiver. I don't think you're off base there at all.
Yeah.
Any other ideas? Any other thoughts?
No, I think that's my main thought. Just get another receiver because we're running low on those guys, and
Yep.
I'm not really sure what another position that we could get except for on the line.
Yeah, you're right. The offensive line would be the other thing that they would need, but I think by the time it gets to them, that the two offensive linemen that are clearly number one picks are probably going to be gone. So at that point, now you start waiting. You pick up your offensive lineman in the third, fourth rounds. There's no other clear-cut guys after the two main guys from Auburn and Texas A&M. So you're absolutely correct. We'll see what happens, right?
Yep, I think that's it.
All right, Chris.
Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you very much.
Appreciate it.
Take care.
You too.
That was awesome. See, I knew it. When we started talking Bucks, that's when the calls would start flying in.
It's because we're more local, and we should be talking more about the local teams. But I want, I don't.
We're trying to expand because we technically are all over the world, baby.
That's right. That's right.
So what were we talking about? We were talking
about
about
the Vikings. I think that I think the Vikings here will take a quarterback. I think like a Bridgewater, who's continuing to fall, as they say, he might be the perfect guy for them. To fall into that system. The other needs that the Vikings have, like corner, they need some offensive linemen. Again, most of those guys are going to be gone. You can get value corners much later. The offensive, oh God, where'd that accent come from? The offensive line, the offensive line somehow broke out in a Canadian accent for a second.
Yeah.
Their offensive linemen are going to be, gone. They're probably one. So I would see Minnesota targeting a quarterback here, a Teddy Bridgewater or a Blake Bortles or Derek Carr, for sure.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Scuba. I think the eighth pick in the 2014 NFL Draft will be Blake Bortles heading over to the Minnesota Vikings.
I mentioned him, by the way.
Well, I know you did. That's why I'm saying I'm not disagreeing with you.
Oh, I thought you said you were disagreeing.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I said I am agreeing with you.
All right.
Blake Bortles will be the pick.
Okay. Excellent. Number 9, Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills, who are all in on E.J. Manuel, so we know they're not going for a quarterback. Although,
What a stud he is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the Buffalo Bills need somebody to protect him, protect his blind side. They do need a right tackle. They need a linebacker, and they certainly need a receiver for someone to throw to him. The right tackle is really their biggest weakness. They gave up a lot of sacks. It's actually why Emmanuel got hurt last year. I see an ideal scenario for them would be for either Jake Matthews or Greg Robinson to fall in their laps to number 9, which is possible. But if they're off the board, you still got the kid from Michigan, Taylor Lewin. And you got actually another shame, Zach Martin, Notre Dame. I call him another shame. You got Zach Martin too, so there are some offensive linemen there. Of course, they could always wait until the later rounds too to get that guard position. And there are some other guards out there that are right tackles. Excuse me. So, but I think that's what the Bills are going to be targeting. They're going to be targeting some offensive line there. If they really truly don't have anything there, then they may take a linebacker or a wide receiver would be smart too, but. There's so many wide receivers out there, they could do that later too. So maybe even Buffalo trades down. That might be good for them if there's something there that one of these other teams behind them want. What do you think?
I think that the ninth? It would be the 9th pick in the 2014 NFL Draft will go to Taylor Lewin, offensive tackle from Michigan, redshirt senior. He's 6'7", he's 309 pounds. Hell yeah, why not do it? The receiver that's on the board, the top receiver left on the board is LSU's Odell Beckham Jr., and I don't think that he will be taken that high.
No, he's probably a second or third rounder. Number 10, we got the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions, I think we all know by watching them, they need some secondary help. They did sign a veteran. I can never say his name. Ehigbo.
What?
Yeah, James Ehigbo. They did sign him, but they still need a safety. They need some backcourt. Jeez, they need some backfield help and in the secondary for sure. They definitely need to. I don't see them doing anything but secondary, whether it be a safety or a corner. That's where the Lions need some help. You got Clinton Dix. Clinton Dix from Alabama. I think he's going to be their pick. He's the guy they're looking for. And playing for Alabama, we got one of them. We got one of those secondary guys from Alabama, Mark Barron, ourselves, and we know how they play. So I see Detroit going that route. I honestly think that's going to be the exact pick. I think they're going to get
It's bad because I can't even say it without laughing. Wow. I was thinking.
That's your problem.
I know. And you know what? I'm going to stick with my guns here. Okay. And I think that it will not be Clinton Dix.
Bernard.
But it will be Justin Gilbert.
Oh, okay.
Cornerback. Oklahoma State.
Okay.
I'm going out on a limb there. And I say that because you are correct. They do need a safety.
I think they were going to go corner. They'd probably take Darquez Denard from Michigan State before they take that kid, but I could be wrong.
Well, Justin Gilbert's the number one. So far, that's come out in the rankings. So
you're going to pass up a Michigan State guy in Detroit, who's probably just as equally, if not as better, anyway. Anyway, I'm just saying.
It's cool.
All right, number 11, got the Tennessee Titans. Titans are clearly in need of, they could probably, I think that Jake Locker has fallen out of favor there, but I don't think quarterback's still really a need for them. They need a running back, no more Chris Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Probably need a linebacker because remember now, the Titans used to play a 4-3. They got new staff there now. They're going to be running a 3-4.
Yes.
Probably a hybrid type scheme similar to the Atlanta Falcons. So, that's what Kenny Wisenhunt likes to run, and that means they are going to need positions that they didn't have enough of before. So you need extra linebackers. So they're going to be in need of a linebacker. I think that they signed they lost their corner to the Buccaneers, but I think that they are going to probably be targeting a linebacker for sure. You got Anthony Barr from UCLA. You've got D Ford from Auburn. I look for them to definitely take a linebacker probably at this position.
And I have, wow, God, are you okay?
Yeah,
I have the same thing at number 11. I have outside linebacker Anthony Barr from UCLA going to the Tennessee Titans. Number 12, the New York Giants.
Yes. Man.
I'm going to go out on a limb on this
How
one.
the mighty have fallen. What, you're going to go out on a limb? Why don't you go first then?
All right. Now, here's the question. What do the New York Giants need? They need offensive line, and they need a tight end. So the pick, in my opinion, is between Zach Martin and Eric Ebron.
Don't forget, though, outside of tight end, which I agree with you, tight end's probably the most glaring need, they also need a wide receiver.
Yes, because of the loss of Hakeem Nicks.
That's correct. They don't have any difference makers on offense anymore. I mean, Cruz can't do it alone.
They will take offensive guard Zach Martin from Notre Dame. They need somebody to protect Eli Manning. I think they're going to wait on Eric Ebron and not take him there. So that's my pick. It will be Zach Martin, the not obvious choice.
I like Eric Ebron in this position, if tight end, if he's not taken by a previously mentioned team.
Right.
Why not? I mean,
I understand.
They don't have anybody. They lost Brandon Myers, who's now also a Buccaneer. And with my namesake, I'm gonna have to start pulling that card. Yeah, Brandon, I'm related to Brandon. Anyway, I like them taking a tight end at this position. If not, I think that you're right. They need some depth at the offensive line. They really don't even have they probably could really use a running back for that matter. But they also need some secondary help. So
yep,
it'll be interesting. But you can get some of that stuff at that point much later. Now we go back to number 13, and up again are the St. Louis Rams. We've already talked about the Rams and their needs. No need to go much further in depth. Whether or not the Rams are going to keep both these picks or not, that's remains to be seen. The Rams are sitting pretty. They can pretty much do what they want. They got 2 great picks. So that's why I'm convinced that the Rams will not take anything other than their needs, their number 2 pick, and I believe they'll still get another need of theirs here at 13 if they don't end up packaging and acquiring other picks. They may very well do exactly that at this position. That's my opinion.
Ha ha! Clinton Dix is going to go to the St. Louis Rams at the number 13th pick.
All right.
Ha ha! Sorry.
At 14, you got the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are in need of secondary help as well, safety, corner. They could use a defensive tackle. They were clearly had 2 of the worst starting safeties last year. Unfortunately, the Buccaneers felt otherwise and signed one of them, Major Wright. Clear that guy is definitely digress. I hope that it's a scheme thing and that the Bucs didn't just blow money on him. But I think that secondary help is exactly where the Bears are going here. You've got you could get a Ha-Ha maybe here if he's passed. He would be a strong pick for them. You've got all sorts of other safeties out there. You got Calvin Pryor with Louisville. Heck, you could even get some of the, a couple of the kids from Florida State. Terrence Brooks is out there. But those, probably later round guys. But I definitely see the Bears going secondary at this position, whether it be a safety or corner. I probably can't pinpoint exactly who they may get. If Ha-Ha's there, I think that's the route they're going for sure.
Calvin Pryor, free safety, Louisville, is the pick for the Chicago Bears.
Which I mentioned.
Correct.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
You did it.
15, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have glaring needs across the board. Who would ever thought that the Steelers would be in need of defensive help? But they are definitely in need of defensive help. They need defensive line help. They need secondary help. And they definitely probably need some wide receivers. So, they got their corners are getting old, and their team as a whole is getting old. I think that they need some frontline depth to shore up that defensive line. Some guys that we talked about already. Your Oklahoma State's Justin Gilbert. You got Virginia Tech's Kyle Fuller, and then of course I just mentioned a couple picks back on the Detroit pick, Michigan State, the corner from Michigan State, Darqueze Dennard. I think he would fit perfect in the Steelers type of defense. He's physical, he's tough, he's well-rounded. I definitely see the Steelers going defense on this pick, unless they feel that they need to take a receiver here in the first round, which I think there's enough receivers out there that the Steelers will be able to do that in the second round.
Just like you said, Darqueze Dennard, cornerback, Michigan State's heading over to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right. The number 16, the vaunted Dallas Cowboys, and their 8-8 record every year or worse. They are in need of some defensive help.
Yes,
across the board. They've got to replace DeMarcus Ware. They need a safety. They need some corners. They need defensive tackles. I mean, they just need some defense.
Yep.
Badly. Where that's going to come from, it could be anywhere. It's going to be a defensive lineman. I don't have any idea which one it's going to be. They've got a lot. They could reach. Wouldn't be beyond the Cowboys to reach for guys that are rated in the second and third rounds to pick them in the first round. That's Jerry Jones for you. A steal could be like a Timmy Jernigan from Florida State. Pittsburgh's Aaron Donald. But I definitely see Dallas Cowboys going with a defensive player at this position, lineman specifically, but wouldn't surprise me if they took a secondary guy.
And it's time for the first Florida State football player to be taken for the Dallas Cowboys. Defensive tackle Timmy Jernigan will head over to the Dallas Cowboys. Sorry, Steve.
That's all right.
Okay.
17, you got the Baltimore Ravens. And they are in need of offensive line help.
Mm-hmm.
Badly. They got to replace the Blindside, Mr. Blindside, Michael Orr. They've got to basically get some offensive line here. What that means specific. So Blindside being right tackle. They did get a couple. They got their left tackle situation taken care of in free agency. But I see that Zach Martin for Notre Dame may still be there. That's the kind of guy that they may end up taking. They may trade out too and try to get that offensive lineman in the later rounds. I don't know, but I see Baltimore Ravens going offensive line at this position or of some kind or another if they stay at this spot.
I'd say I disagree with you here. I'm not saying that they don't need offensive line, but since I said Zach Martin will be taken earlier on in the draft, I believe that the Baltimore Ravens will go in one of their also major needs, and that's strong safety, and I think they're going to go Jimmy Ward from Northern Illinois.
Okay.
That's just one of my things, and I sent you a quick message-o on the old Facebook, so I will just start it off with the New York Jets at number 18.
We'll speed it up a little bit, but we also should have been able to have our guests here, so I'm taking some extra time.
New York Jets at 18.
Jets are in need of an offensive guard, wide receiver, and a corner. I think they could also use a tight end. I think they got Michael Vick now, so they probably shored up their horrible quarterback situation. I think that they're going to probably try to get a wide receiver at some point here. That could be any number of wide receivers at this point, or a tight end. But I see the Jets going wide receiver at this position.
Sorry, John, I have to say it. You will have an LSU receiver going to the New York Jets. Odell Beckham Jr. will be taken by the Jets at number 18.
All right. And then number 19, you got the Miami Dolphins. They're definitely in need of some offensive line help. We don't need to go into the reasons why. Clearly, it's an overhaul situation at offensive line. If the Miami Dolphins take anything but an offensive line here, it better be a running back. But I see an offensive lineman being taken here. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Cyrus Condiho. I can't even say the name. Condiho. Offensive tackle from Alabama will be taken by the Miami Dolphins.
Okay.
Sorry for the no NFL draft music, but apparently we got to speed it up.
Number 20 got the Arizona Cardinals. Disappointingly, should have been in the playoffs last year, but they just missed. So they're on the right track. They definitely need some secondary help. Probably could use a quarterback too. Carson Palmer's not really going to be there much longer, but that they'll probably do that in the later rounds. I definitely see some secondary help needing here for the Cardinals, maybe even a linebacker, which is semi-secondary. So without really naming names, because it's getting later in the rounds now, it's hard to pick names at this point. Let's just say position-wise, I think they're going to go secondary, a corner, a safety perhaps. And if not, then I'm not sure what they're thinking. It might be a linebacker.
I think they're going to go defensive end. Honestly, it's weird that I say that, but I think they do need some line, and I think they need more pressure. DeMarcus Lawrence from Boise State is where I'm going to go with this one.
All right. Number 21 got the Green Bay Packers.
They need all defense, everything.
Yeah, I mean they could probably need a receiver too, but their defensive lines get is old or gone, and they definitely need to start replacing that. They also could use a tight end, but I definitely think secondary is their most pressing need for sure. And I see them probably going with a free safety at this point. Either your Northern Illinois Jimmy Ward guy, Dix, if for somehow if some reason they slip down. Again, you got some other guys that are potentially there, but I see the Packers going secondary at this spot.
I do too. I see the Packers do take Jimmy Ward, strong safety, Northern Illinois.
You just had him taken at a couple spots.
No,
before.
I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Did I really?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. I am so sorry, folks.
That's why I said you might as well just stop picking names, because at this point,
No, I've had my stuff down, and oh, damn.
you already
okay.
had him going a couple picks ago, so unless he's
No,
going to play for
that's
two teams
my
at once, it's going to be
fault.
tough.
Brandon, all right, so here we go. The Green Bay Packers. All right, let's see. So they need defense. All right, I got it. The Green Bay Packers are going to take C.J. Mosley, linebacker from Alabama.
Okay.
And there's a reason for that, but we don't have time to get into it.
Number 22, you got Philadelphia Eagles. Also, secondary help is badly needed. Actually, just defense across the board is needed for that team. I'd be surprised if the Eagles take a single offensive player, to be honest with you. They need linebackers. They need secondary help. They need defensive line help. I'm not confident that the Eagles have the people in place that know how to pick defensive guys. I think that they overachieved a little bit last year. But I see the Eagles probably going with secondary help. If not, I could see them taking a linebacker. Again, most of the names that they could probably get are guys we've already mentioned previously. No need to run through names. My picks are least position at this point: safety or linebacker. Definitely a defensive person of some caliber at this spot. 22.
I agree. The Eagles do need some secondary. Sorry, Dad. Kyle Fuller, cornerback from Virginia Tech, will be taken by the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, that's rough.
23, you got the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are also probably in need of another wide receiver themselves. They lost two offensive guards, so they may need an offensive guard also at this position. They could use some secondary help. That ultimately was one of their downfalls last year too. Getting beat deep. So they have really no legitimate starter back there at safety, free safety. So I see free safety definitely is a glaring need for them, and they're going to land a free safety at some point.
I think receiver is a big issue for the Kansas City Chiefs. They have one receiver only, and I think that Brandon Cooks, receiver from Oregon State, will be taken by Kansas City at number 23.
Okay. And then your favorite team, Cincinnati Bengals, are sitting at number 24.
Hell yeah. Repping the jersey today, too.
All right. They need line help defensively and offensively. Could certainly also use a corner. I think they're going to go off. They need offensive line help more than anything else. They just could not protect Dalton very well or get a real good running game going last year. Surprisingly, they were still able to go 11-5. I see some line help here.
I do too. I can't tell you who, but I definitely, because like I said, we're getting into later. I mean, we're getting into the picks that it's really hard to tell at this point. I think the Bengals will go line, or they will go and take a cornerback in Bradley Roby from Ohio State.
Okay, 25 got the San Diego Chargers. Talk about needing some secondary help.
Yes,
corner. Anything but a corner, then the San Diego Chargers will flop out of the playoffs again.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. Number 26, Cleveland Browns. Are back on the board again. They got that pick from the Colts. We already talked about the Cleveland Browns. We won't talk about them anymore. They do have this second pick, so they may have this pick again, or they may use this pick to do something different with it. But so we don't need to cover what the Cleveland needs again.
because it's still everything.
That's right. 27, you got the New Orleans Saints. Saints have some glaring needs too. They need a corner. They need some offense. They need some offensive line. They need outside linebackers.
Yep.
They need a center probably. So that's offensive line. So I see offensive line going here probably.
Yep, I'm with you. 100%. They need something to protect them.
All right. Carolina Panthers sitting there at 28.
Yep.
I don't think anybody has any doubt that Cam Newton needs some targets to throw to. No more Steve Smith. Ted Ginn Jr. is gone, which to me has not really ever been a big loss. But they also lost their free safety, Mike Mitchell, and they also lost Captain Munnerland, secondary. So they clearly need some defensive back help, whether it be a safety or corner, and they clearly need wide receiver help. I don't feel sorry for Carolina. They certainly are probably going to use their pick here in the first round as a stretch to pick somebody because they really absolutely need it. I could see them actually. This would probably be where a Marquise Lee
Or a
from
Cody
US.
Latimer, too.
Yeah, or those are the guys that normally they got them rated outside the first round, but are really solid wide receivers. That'd be the kind of guy I think that they might go with. And and of course Carolina signed your boy Tyquan Underwood, so maybe they won't go wide receiver.
Tyquan.
All right, moving on. My other team, the New England Patriots, we already talked about them a little bit on the side. They need some defensive line help, clearly, because when Vince Wilfork and Tommy Kelly went down with season-ending injuries last year, their interior defensive line was clearly exposed and was atrocious. So they need to get some depth there. They have some flexibility, but I definitely see some defensive line here. If the Patriots keep this pick, the Patriots are well known for trading out, but I see they definitely, their needs would be defensive line, and also I think they also need some wide receivers.
Yes, Rasheed Hedgeman from Minnesota, defensive tackle. I agree with you 100%. Give Vince Wilfork some help.
No question. And then we got the San Francisco 49ers at 30. They also need some secondary help. They probably need a receiver to help out. Crabtree is,
He's mediocre.
That's right. Mediocre receivers.
He's weak.
That's right. So I think that they were definitely and the 49ers have a lot of picks. They have a lot of picks.
Yes.
So they may wait to pick up a corner or something later on. But I definitely see them going corner probably more than once. You sound like you're in agreement, so
yes.
we'll move on to the Denver Broncos at 31.
Yes.
They have not had a middle linebacker since Carl Mecklenburg. They definitely need a linebacker. They also probably could use a corner. Some will say that they need a wide receiver because they've lost a couple. I disagree with that at this point. I think they still got enough receivers out there. Look, you set all sorts of offensive records. If you lose one receiver, even losing a little bit of that is still going to put you up there scoring a lot of points. Go with your needs. You need a linebacker, especially a middle linebacker. There shouldn't be any question about doing that. And I see exactly the Denver Broncos going at that position.
Yes, Ryan Shazier from Ohio State.
Yep. And you got your Seattle Seahawks, your defending champions, last but not least, sitting at 32. They are definitely in need of some offensive line help. They need some receivers. They could probably use a tight end. They could use a defensive line depth. Seattle's kind of can do what they want here, but I think they're going to try to shore up that offensive line. That used to be one of their strong points back a while. But I don't see a lot of holes on defense, so they're certainly not going to go that route. I definitely see some offensive line going there.
Yep.
Other than that, the only two teams like we talked about that don't have first-round picks that we didn't talk about at all, you got the Indianapolis Colts. Clearly, we need some more. They need some more protection for Andrew Luck. So they're going to need some offensive line help. They'll be able to get that in the later rounds. Then you got the Redskins. I can't believe I just said that. Washington also doesn't have a first-round pick. They're definitely in need of some secondary or linebacker help.
Any defense, correct.
Yeah, their linebacking core is old or gone now because they're so old. That's going to be some upgrading that they're going to need there. So
yes.
With that,
let's wrap this sucker up.
We got to wrap it up. We did run over a little bit. Apologize. We did get off on a tangent on some of the other stories, and then of course when we started off this, we really started getting a little too detailed. It's hard to ram this all in. That's why they do run the draft over the course of 4 days. Those are our thoughts. Those are our ideas. We will find out next Sunday how this all transitioned out, and of course we'll have the final rounds going on while we're here next Sunday. So we'll have it scrolling, well, not necessarily on the screen for you all, but as they're scrolling by and a pick is made, we'll announce them as we're going through the show. So if you disagree or have any ideas of your own, go to our Facebook page. You can leave your own comments and thoughts. And I'm excited to come back next Sunday and talk about who's been drafted and by whom, and we'll kind of just do a reverse of what we did, see where we're at.
All right, here we go, folks, for my official wrap-up time. Here we go, 2 Cent Sports and Entertainment Show Facebook page. Like it, comment, subscribe, whatever you can do to it, do it. Follow me on Twitter at 2 Cent Zach. Scuba not ever going to join Twitter, and that's okay. I've finally come to the realization he doesn't want to get with the 21st century and follow all this cool
I don't want to get
celebrities
involved with all the stupidity.
like Justin Timberlake and people like that. You don't want to follow them. Check out the website that will be launched hopefully next week. My God, I hope so. 2centsports.com. Thank you, Michael G. Butash and Donovan, attorney at laws, in the background of Scuba. And thank you, Thomas Wilson of Tech and Media Partners. Let's see, is that it? I believe that is it. Am I forgetting anything?
You are forgetting that May the 4th be with you. It is Star Wars Day. I am headed home. Going to have a nice, relaxing afternoon to start our Star Wars movie marathon with the wife. We're going to nerd out for the day and just enjoy it and get ready to get back to work tomorrow in our regular, real job. Thank you all for listening. Appreciate you tuning in. Stu, tune in next week. Let's see how well we all did. And we will try to do a little bit of analysis. It'll be a little hard to do too much analysis, but this draft will finally be over. We can start moving on. We'll have some other things to talk about. Stay tuned. Listen in next Sunday, 11 a.m. Thanks for listening. I'm Scuba. And for Zach on the other side of the glass, we're out.
This program was brought to you by the Internet Broadcasting Organization, setting the standard for new media broadcasting.